So the Democratic convention was last week, and I have to say it was a huge contrast with the Republican convention that took place the previous week. I watched not the entire thing, obviously, but I watched the major speeches all 4 days of the convention. I was pleased with most of what I saw and heard. I came out of it feeling very optimistic about the election in November, very motivated and energized and hopeful about the next couple of months and about what the result will be. But there was one moment in one of the speeches that has stuck with me ever since I saw it. And it was a moment during Bernie Sanders' speech to the convention, which was an excellent speech. I really thought that Sanders did a very good job. I thought he did a great job of trying to reach out to the Hillary supporters and to encourage his supporters, the diehard Bernie Sanders supporters, who were still very reluctant to throw their support over to Hillary Clinton, of convincing them of the importance of doing that, of the necessity of doing that. But there was a moment during Sanders' speech when, and it wasn't even something that Sanders himself said. It was a reaction that someone in the audience had to something that Sanders said in the speech. And I'm going to play you that clip of the speech very, very briefly, just a couple of seconds, so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a moment about, it's 21 minutes and 50 seconds into the speech as recorded on the official DNC YouTube page, and I'll link to the video in the description bar, the video of the Sanders speech that I'm referencing. And Bernie is describing the compromise proposal reached by himself and Hillary Clinton that was included in the Democratic Party platform for 2016. That is a proposal for children of families with a household income of less than $125,000 to get free college tuition. So I'll just play you the clip and you'll see what I mean. After Bernie is done speaking, there's a cut to a reaction shot in the crowd, and that reaction is what I'm talking about. So check it out.
83% of our population will be able to go to a public college or university tuition free.
And then they cut to another shot of someone in the crowd, and then they cut back to Bernie, and he continues the speech. If you couldn't tell, if your lip reading is a little off, the young woman in that reaction shot that I am referring to was yelling, "That's not enough." And again, she's yelling, "That's not enough," in response to a proposal that, according to Sanders, would mean that 83% of people who want to go to college would be able to go to college tuition free, which seems to me like a big deal. That is less than Sanders' proposal. Sanders' original proposal was he wanted to make college tuition free for everybody. Let's just declare that anyone can go to college at a public university, at a state university, tuition free. And of course, that would have been even better. But 83% is not bad, and it's certainly a lot better than the current situation that we have now. But the reaction of that young woman and of many Sanders supporters was to reject it, to say, no, that's not enough. And it would be really easy for me to condemn that young woman, to wag my finger at her and say, oh, you kids and your sense of entitlement, and how is this not good enough for you? You want everything, and you want everything right now. And just because you can't have 100%, you're going to turn up your nose at 83%. You're going to burn the house down because you didn't get everything you want. It would be really easy to do that. And there's a part of me that feels very tempted to do that. There was a part of me that had that reaction when I was watching the speech live, and they cut to that reaction of that young woman screaming, "That's not enough," at a proposal to make college tuition free for 83% of people. But then I thought a little bit more about it, and I realized that despite part of me having that instinctive reaction, I sympathize with her, and I sympathize with the people who feel as she feels. I sympathize with the Sanders supporters who are disappointed because they feel like with Hillary Clinton as the nominee, the party will not be as progressive or as far to the left or as ambitious in its proposed reforms as it would be if Sanders had gotten the nomination. And I'm sympathetic to that. And I'm more sympathetic than anything to members of marginalized groups. And I don't know if that young lady who was yelling that is a member of a marginalized group or not. But people who have been Sanders supporters, who are people of color or LGBTQ people, or immigrants or disabled or members of some other group that generally has a much rougher time than other groups, I completely sympathize with members of those groups who are just tired of waiting. You know, that's a reaction that I see a lot from Black Lives Matter protesters, from black folks in general, when they share their pain and their outrage about racial injustice, about police brutality, about racial inequalities in the justice system, about all kinds of issues, and they're told often by well-meaning white folks, well, just hold on, change is an incremental thing. Change happens little by little. And I sympathize with people who say, we're tired of waiting. We're tired of people saying, well, change is coming, just you wait, because we've been hearing that for 50 years, longer than 50 years, but 50 years since the modern civil rights movement really kicked into high gear. Like, we've been hearing that for 50 years, and we've made great progress, but we still have a long way to go. And it feels like we're just sort of standing still, and like we have been for a while, and we're tired of waiting. I sympathize with that completely, and it's far be it for me as a relatively privileged person to tell marginalized, underprivileged people how they should be responding to their oppression, or how angry they should be or shouldn't be about things that they face in their lives that I don't ever have to face. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. But I do think it's worth remembering, no matter who we are, that the choice that we are faced with in this election in particular is not between 83% and 100%, right? If the choice was between 83% and 100%, then that young woman protesting "that's not enough" I would be completely on her side. Like, I wouldn't just sympathize with her, I would be completely on her side. Because 100% of Americans having tuition-free college is much better than 83% of Americans having tuition-free college. But that's not the choice. The choice isn't 83% or 100%. The choice is 83% or 0%. Because if you think that if Donald Trump, or really any Republican president, would be open to a proposal that would make college at public universities tuition free for middle-class families, I have to say you are dreaming. That would be considered an entitlement. That would be considered a handout, a government handout, a giveaway, something that freeloaders could take advantage of. That's how Republicans typically view these sorts of programs. Now, once this election, if the Democrats win this election, if Hillary is elected president, and especially if Democrats make significant gains in the House and the Senate, not to mention state legislatures across the country, if there is a significant progressive mandate enacted by this election, by the results of this election, then you can keep pushing. You can say, okay, let's get 83%. And if the 83% proposal is passed and becomes law and becomes a reality, which is a whole separate fight. Like, this is just a proposal. This is just a convention. This is just the platform. This is just the party saying, here's what we want to do. If that's actually able to become a reality and become law, and you get your 83% of people getting college tuition free, then you can say, all right, 83 is great. Let's go for more. Let's go for 100. Let's go for 90. We got 83%. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see how we can get to 90. Maybe a few years later, we get to a better proposal. We get to 90%, and we go from 83 to 90. Then we go, oh, you know what? 95, 98, 100. Let's just go for it. Let's build our way up to the ultimate proposal of 100% tuition-free college. But it's a much, much shorter road from 83% to 100% than it is from 0% to 100% in the face of a completely hostile administration that has no interest in supporting that sort of proposal at all. As I said, I sympathize with the emotion that I think that young woman and many other Bernie Sanders supporters are feeling. I sympathize with the disappointment. I know that a lot of the Sanders supporters are young people, are people of college age, maybe even a little younger, maybe people who are like 18 years old, who are just coming out of high school. And the Bernie Sanders campaign was the first campaign in a politics that they really felt connected to, that they really felt invested in, that they felt like it really means something to me that this candidate wins. And if he wins, this feels like it would really make a difference. I know what that feels like because that's how I felt about Barack Obama in 2008. I was a little older. I was 28, not 18 or of typical college age, but that's how I felt about Barack Obama. I felt like we have to do this. This is our moment. This is our chance to make history. This is our time to do something audacious, to do something different, to take a chance on the young guy, on the guy who is different than the other presidents that we've elected, the guy who is not the next person in line. Because you remember back in 2008, Hillary Clinton was the next person in line, and she and Barack Obama had quite a fight over the nomination. And I am sure that if Barack Obama had lost that nomination in 2008 to Hillary Clinton, just as Bernie Sanders has lost the nomination this year to Hillary Clinton, I am sure I would have been crushed. I would have been disillusioned. I would have been disappointed. I'm positive that that's how I would have felt, because I was as invested in Obama as a candidate, as a symbol of hope, as a lot of the real diehard Bernie Sanders supporters are invested in Bernie Sanders. I know how it feels. But I would hope, and I can't say this for sure, maybe I would have done something different, but I would hope that if I had been in the position that the Bernie Sanders supporters who are still reluctant to support Hillary now are in now, if Obama had lost and Hillary had won the nomination in 2008, I would like to think that I would have voted for her. Not because she would have been the perfect candidate, not because she would have given me 100% of what I wanted or of what I expected from Obama, but because she would have given me more of what I wanted. She would have proposed and supported an agenda that would push me closer to what I wanted, that would drag America more in the direction that I believe America needs to go than her opponent. I see the progressive case against Hillary Clinton if the alternative is Bernie Sanders. But the alternative is no longer Bernie Sanders. That race is over. The alternative is Donald Trump. And I do not see the progressive, social democrat, left-wing case against Hillary Clinton if the alternative is Donald Trump. There's an aphorism that has been coming to my mind over and over again throughout these late stages of the Democratic primary, as the Sanders supporters, many of them, have struggled with transitioning over to being Hillary supporters and have been very vocal about their reservations about that. And the aphorism is this: the perfect is the enemy of the good. I think this campaign, especially on the Democratic side, has been a vivid demonstration of that. And I think that the reactions of many of the Bernie Sanders supporters following the defeat of their candidate has been a very vivid illustration of that principle. If we want to continue to move forward, if we want to continue to work for progress and to see that progress realized in our society, if we want to continue to make our world, our community better for ourselves, for everyone, for underprivileged people, for people who aren't even here yet, for the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of our generation, We cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We have to continue to push. We have to continue to demand more, to demand better, to make more ambitious proposals. But we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We can't turn our noses up at 83% because we refuse to accept anything less than 100%. That is not a path to progress. That is a path to political defeat and to futility. We need to take the 83%, is what I'm saying. We need to take the 83% and move forward from there. Hey folks, hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, please consider helping me to make more videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.